The louder you beg, the more invisible you become. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. But you're here because deep down, you already know it's true. You've felt it. That sinking feeling when your message gets left on read. When hours turn to days and silence stretches so loud, it echoes, and you start spiraling. Did I say something wrong? Am I annoying them? Should I try harder? My friends, this mindset is the trap. The more you try to explain, justify, or prove your worth, the further they pull away. And if you don't stop now, you'll keep handing your power to someone who already stopped valuing it. Hey folks, imagine this. Imagine standing in front of a giant lion. You're waving your arms, shouting, trying to get its attention. But the more noise you make, the more it turns away, bored, uninterested. Now picture someone else just standing still, calm, composed, not even trying. And suddenly, the lion starts paying attention. Why? Because power doesn't beg, it commands. It doesn't chase, it attracts. You've been taught all wrong. Society says if they're ignoring you, try harder, be sweeter, send another text, pour your soul out. But let me ask you, has that ever truly worked? Or did it just leave you feeling worse? Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." And in this case, stop arguing for your worth. Just embody it. Because you don't need to chase after someone who can't even bother to reply. You need to become the version of you that doesn't need a reply to feel powerful. Some of you are still caught in the illusion that sending one more message will fix it. But here's the lie. That message isn't about them. It's your fear talking, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being enough. But fear isn't truth. Fear is a faulty compass that leads you into emotional debt, where every message you send costs you another piece of your dignity. So today, we're going to change that. Today, I'll show you exactly what to send, not to get a reply, but to command respect, to shift the balance, to reclaim your self-respect and make them realize that your attention is no longer free. These aren't tricks. These are strategies rooted in Stoic wisdom and sharp emotional intelligence. And when you use them, something powerful happens. They stop seeing you as desperate and start feeling your absence like a silence they can't escape. This isn't about playing games. It's about breaking free from a pattern that has kept you chasing after crumbs. From now on, we're done with emotional begging. From now on, your words will carry weight. Your silence will speak louder than any text. And your presence, it will be a privilege, not a punishment for anyone to endure. I want you to stay with me, because every section from here will be a game changer. And before we move forward, I want you to write this in the comments right now. No more begging. Say it out loud. Type it with power. Let it be your line in the sand. And if this message is already hitting home, smash that like button, subscribe for more, and let's rewrite your story, starting today. Calm, clear, powerful. Message number 1. You must be swamped. I'll catch you later. Confidence doesn't chase. It chooses when to engage and when to walk away. Now that's the energy we're stepping into. Let's say they've gone silent. No reply, no explanation, just that familiar nothingness. And there you are, staring at your phone like it holds the answers to the universe. You reread what you sent, dissecting every word, every emoji, every pause. Was I too much? Did I come off too eager? Should I say something else? But here's the thing, the more time you spend trying to decode their silence, the more disconnected you become from your own voice. Let's break this down, folks. When someone doesn't reply, your knee-jerk reaction is usually panic. You assume the worst. You assume it's your fault. So what do? You send another message, something nice, something clarifying, something harmless. But underneath it all, it's just fear trying to prove you still matter. But what if, instead of falling into that trap, you chose a different response? One that communicates self-respect, not self-doubt. That's where this line comes in. You must be swamped. I'll catch you later. Now let's talk about why this simple sentence holds so much weight. First, it acknowledges their silence without neediness. It says, I noticed, but I'm not offended. It removes the emotional charge. No blame, no guilt, no begging, just calm detachment. And second, it flips the energy. You're not waiting, you're not chasing, you're moving on with your day. Think of it like this. Imagine walking into a cafe and waving at someone. They don't wave back. You don't stand there for 5 more minutes waving harder, do you? No. You nod, smile, and walk away. You hold your dignity, you keep your pace. And oddly enough, that's usually when they look up. That's exactly what this message does. It leaves the door open just enough to show you're not bitter, but closes it firmly enough to say, I don't need this conversation to complete me. The beauty of it is in its casual power. It sounds light, playful even, but underneath it says, I'm not here to fight for your attention. If you're too busy, I respect that. I'm not here to compete with your distractions. And this is where it gets fun. Silence after a calm dismissal hits harder than silence after a meltdown. Because now they're left wondering, why aren't they chasing? Why are they so calm? Did I lose them? You've quietly unsettled their expectations and that discomfort. That's the beginning of a shift. They expected you to hold on. Instead, you let go. Seneca once said, he who is brave is free, and in this case, bravery looks like letting go before they ever give you closure. It looks like choosing your peace over their inconsistency. It looks like walking away when everything in you wants to run after them. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Won't that make me seem like I don't care? No, my friend. It makes you look like you have a life, like you're not emotionally dependent on one person's response to feel valuable. And trust me, that's magnetic. Let me be clear, this message isn't a trick. It's not reverse psychology. It's emotional maturity in a single sentence. It's showing that you can acknowledge reality and walk away with grace. Because the people who matter, they'll feel that shift. The ones who don't, they were never really listening anyway. So the next time your message is met with silence, I want you to pause, take a breath, and instead of sending another emotional plea or a wall of explanation, just type, you must be swamped, I'll catch you later. And then, actually let go. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough about yourself not to beg. If this message hit you, if it's rewiring something deep inside you, I want you to write this in the comments right now. I respect myself. Say it, show it, let it echo in the space they left behind. Stay with me. Because the next message I'll show you doesn't just create curiosity, it makes them feel your absence like thunder. You don't want to miss it. Message number 2. Something just reminded me of you. It was unexpected. You don't need to be loud to be unforgettable. Sometimes one whisper, placed with precision, echoes louder than a scream. Let's talk about the moment they stop replying. That heavy pause, the sudden switch from warmth to distance. And just like that, your mind kicks into overdrive. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in your stomach. That sick twist of, what did I do wrong, starts to creep in. You replay conversations like a movie reel. You imagine scenarios. You even start typing, then deleting, then typing again. Sound familiar? This is where most people cave. They go into panic mode. They send paragraphs. They over-explain. They apologize for things that don't need apologies. But folks, let's make one thing very clear. Desperation is louder than confidence, and people instinctively move away from loud noise when it's rooted in need. Now imagine doing the complete opposite. Instead of pouring out your emotions, instead of proving your value, you drop a single line, calm, mysterious, understated. Something just reminded me of you. It was unexpected. Boom. That's it. That's the message. Short, subtle, and insanely effective. Let's break down why this works on a psychological level. First, it flips the energy. You're not chasing, you're inviting, you're not seeking closure, you're planting a seed. And human minds? Oh, we hate unfinished stories. We crave resolution. We want to fill in blanks. That's the Zeigarnik effect in action, the psychological pull that comes from an incomplete thought. They read that message and suddenly, they're wondering, what reminded them of me? Was it something good? Why now? Should I ask? Should I respond? That's what a breadcrumb does. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain. It lingers. Now let's talk metaphor. Imagine walking past a door that's cracked open just an inch. You don't need to open it, but your mind starts to wonder what's behind it. You pause, you peek, and that curiosity becomes irresistible. That's exactly what this line does. You left the door open just wide enough for their mind to start playing games with themselves. This is not manipulation. It's artful detachment. It's understanding the difference between overreaching and magnetism. When you send a message like this, you're signaling something powerful. I still have thoughts about you, but I'm not here to unpack them for free. Let's be honest. Anyone can send a paragraph. Anyone can pour their heart out. That's easy. But to say less and still stay on their mind, that's power. That's what makes you stand out in a sea of noise and emotional overexposure. You become a question mark they want to answer, not a flashing sign that begs for recognition. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That applies here too. If they pulled away, you don't react. You don't mirror their apathy with chaos. You respond with grace, with precision, with mystery, because you know your worth doesn't need to shout. Let's not forget, this strategy only works when you pair it with self-respect. You can't drop breadcrumbs and then panic if they don't bite immediately. This isn't fishing for attention. This is reminding them subtly that you're not out of the picture, that they're not out of your mind entirely, but also you're not waiting. You've got your pace, your flow, your life. If they respond, great. You follow up lightly. Keep the intrigue going. If they don't, you walk away calmly because your message already did its job. It planted the seed. You don't need to water it every 5 minutes. And here's the deeper truth. You're not sending this for them. You're doing this for you. You're showing yourself that you can communicate with elegance instead of urgency, that you can make a statement without shouting, that you can show presence without losing peace. So the next time someone stops replying, I want you to take your power back. Don't react with anxiety. Respond with art. Type, something just reminded me of you. It was unexpected. And then, do nothing. Let it work. Let it echo. Let them sit with it. If this landed with you, if you're done with begging and ready to move with precision, I want you to type this in the comments right now. I choose calm power. Let your new energy be seen, not just by them, but by you. And stay with me, because what's coming next? Oh, it's even stronger. Next, we pull the rug right out from under their expectations. Trust me, you're going to love what happens when they start chasing. Message number 3, I'll tell you later if it's still relevant. The second they expect you to chase, and you don't, the whole game changes. Let's talk about this moment. They haven't responded. Again. And you're sitting there wondering if you should say something, if you should explain yourself, justify your last message, or maybe just send something light to get their attention back. But pause. Take a breath. Because this is where most people give their power away. In the waiting, in the overthinking, in the belief that silence is a test they need to pass. But what if, instead of reacting, you redirected? What if you sent a message so subtle, so effortlessly composed that it snaps their expectations in half? Try this. I'll tell you later if it's still relevant. Now let's break down why this line is a psychological mic drop. First of all, it's vague, but not in a confusing way, in a calculated way. It says just enough to trigger curiosity without handing over the full story. Second, it signals movement, that you're not stuck, that you've got a rhythm and you're not waiting around with a plate full of unspoken words just because they're ignoring you. Third, and this is key, it places the value of your message in the future, not the past. You're saying, this was worth sharing, but now, maybe not. That's power. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine you're at a table with someone, holding a wrapped gift. They've been distracted the whole time, checking their phone, barely engaging. You hold the gift out, but instead of them reaching for it, they ignore it. So you slowly pull it back into your lap and say, "I'll give it to you later, if you're still here." Suddenly, their attention snaps back. Why? Because they realized they might miss something meant for them. That's what this line does. It introduces the possibility that your energy, your stories, your thoughts, your emotional presence is not unlimited. It has a shelf life, and they might have just let it expire. This line flips the dynamic because it introduces loss. And loss, my friends, hits harder than gain. People don't move because they see something new. They move because they feel something slipping away. By sending, "I'll tell you later," if it's still relevant, you're subtly reminding them, you are not a constant. You are not a background presence that waits silently on the sidelines. You are moving, changing, choosing. And their place in your life? That's not guaranteed. Now, some of you might feel hesitation. You'll ask, "Isn't this kind of cold?" No, this isn't cold. This is clear. It's honest. It's calm. It's you choosing to protect your energy instead of throwing it at someone who can't even be bothered to catch it. This message also creates the perfect storm of curiosity. Think about it. You just told them you had something to say. You implied it mattered. And now, it might be gone. That drives people crazy. It forces them to fill in the blanks, to chase the closure you didn't offer. And that, right there, is when you've shifted the balance of power, not by playing games, but by choosing yourself over the urge to explain. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And their response? That's out of your control. What you can control is the energy you put out. You can choose to stop pouring into silence. You can choose to hold back your full truth, not because you're hiding, but because you're honoring your value. Let's go even deeper. This line, "I'll tell you later if it's still relevant," doesn't just make them curious about the message, it makes them question their place in your story. Are they still relevant? Are they missing something that once would have been freely given? That sting, that's not bitterness, that's clarity. So when the silence gets loud and the urge to double text creeps in, I want you to pause, smile, and calmly type, "I'll tell you later if it's still relevant." And then get back to your life, not out of spite, but out of strength. Because when you move like that, you're not just avoiding desperation, you're building magnetism. the kind that can't be faked, the kind that makes people feel your absence and question their distance. If this clicked something inside you, if you're done over-explaining yourself to people who've already stopped listening, then do me a favor. Write it in the comments right now. My energy has value. Say it. Type it. Let it settle into your bones, because the next move we're about to make, it won't just unsettle their ego, it'll redefine your standard forever. So stay with me, because the next message, it doesn't just shake the ground under them, it makes them question why they ever thought you'd stay. Message number 4. No worries. You've made it clear. Sometimes the strongest message isn't the one that fights for clarity, it's the one that accepts it without resistance. Let's get real for a second. You've waited. You've stared at your phone long enough for your screen to memorize your face. You've played the silent game, hoping they'd break it first. But the longer they stay quiet, the louder your insecurities become. And in that silence, a dangerous thought creeps in. Maybe if I just reach out one more time, just one more. No, stop right there, because here's the harsh truth, my friend. If someone can't even be bothered to acknowledge your existence, you don't owe them another second of your energy. Not a sentence, not a syllable, and certainly not your self-respect. But you don't ghost them either. You don't lash out. You don't become cold or petty. You rise, you elevate, you respond with the kind of calm that shakes people more than shouting ever could. And that's where this message lands like a quiet thunderclap. No worries, you've made it clear. Let that sink in. It's polite, it's composed, but it's also a closed door with class. It says, I'm not angry, I'm not begging, I just understand now. And that kind of energy, that's unnerving for someone who expected you to keep reaching, to keep trying, to keep breaking yourself just to fix the silence they created. This message works because it ends the narrative without creating a scene. It doesn't need exclamation points or long explanations. It just lets them sit in the reality they created. And that, folks, is psychological pressure at its finest. Metaphor time. Imagine someone slowly walking out of your life, hoping you'll chase after them. They keep looking back, expecting a reaction. And then, nothing. You don't run, you don't beg. You simply turn and walk the other way. That silence, that stillness, that's when their footsteps start to falter, because they realize they were never leading, they were being watched, and now they've been dismissed. This line, you've made it clear, isn't about guilt-tripping them. It's about releasing yourself. It's a subtle but powerful affirmation that says, I heard your silence, and I'm done asking for explanations. Now I know what might be going through your head. But what if they really were just busy? What if they meant to reply? Sure, maybe. But if someone truly values you, they show it. No one forgets to prioritize what matters to them. You're not a side quest in someone else's story. You're not a background notification to be cleared and forgotten. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And let me add to that, wasting time on someone who can't even respond to you is one of the most silent forms of self-betrayal. Here's what this message really does. It forces accountability. Without blame, without pressure, you let them know you saw their behavior clearly and you're adjusting accordingly. That kind of self-awareness is magnetic and unsettling, especially for people who thought they could disappear without consequence. This message doesn't just protect your peace, it also resets your standard. Because after you send it, you're not waiting anymore. You've said your piece, you've owned your truth, and now you walk. No more checking, no more hoping, no more overanalyzing. You gave clarity. You owned the exit, and they now have to sit with the echo. And if they do come back later, if they crawl back with explanations or half-hearted attempts to pick up where they left off, you already have your answer. They made it clear. You just believed them. So here's what I want you to do. The next time someone drifts into silence and leaves you hanging, don't spiral, don't react with panic. Pause, breathe, and type. No worries, you've made it clear. And then let it be. If this message hit your soul, if you're done tolerating the mixed signals and emotional crumbs, write this in the comments right now. I accept the silence. Say it out loud. Show yourself that you're done trying to fix what's not broken. It's just not meant for you anymore. Stay with me, because what comes next? It's not just a message, it's a mirror, and it forces them to see exactly what they've become, even if they're not ready to face it. Message number 5. You used to be different. If you want to make someone uncomfortable, remind them of who they used to be before they started pretending they didn't care. Let's not sugarcoat this. Sometimes the silence isn't just silence. It's a betrayal, not loud, not obvious, but slow, subtle, silent. They used to respond with fire. Now you're met with cold. They used to light up when you spoke. Now it's like your words pass through them, unnoticed, unfelt, unreturned. And you sit there wondering, what happened? And then it hits you. They've changed. Or worse, they've gone back to pretending like you never mattered at all. Now here's where most people either explode in frustration or retreat in quiet heartbreak. But we're not doing either. We're going to do something better, smarter, colder, in the most stoic way possible. We're going to show them the one thing they can't run from, their own reflection. That's where this line becomes a psychological bullet wrapped in velvet. You used to be different. Just 5 words, no rage, no accusations, no begging, just a mirror, held up calmly. And nothing rattles the mind of someone who's been emotionally avoidant, like being shown their own shift in behavior. Because now they have to face it. They can't gaslight your perception. They can't act like they've always been distant. You just reminded them of the contrast, and contrast is where all the discomfort lives. Let me break it down for you. This line doesn't scream for validation. It doesn't cry for closure. It simply observes. And observations are powerful because they force the other person to sit in their own silence and wonder. Do they see me differently now? Am I slipping? Did I mess this up? It's like walking up to a painting that used to be beautiful and saying, "It's faded, hasn't it?" You're not being cruel. You're just telling the truth, calmly, clearly, and that, folks, is where your power lives, in clarity, without chaos. Let's go even deeper. Why does this message hit so hard? Because it awakens something they thought they buried: conscience. They may have convinced themselves that ignoring you is harmless, that disappearing is fine, that leaving messages unanswered is just normal. But the second you remind them that they used to be better, you shake that narrative. Now, they have to sit with what they lost, what they changed, what they used to give so freely, and why they stopped. And here's the best part. This message doesn't tell them how you feel. It makes them feel it themselves. You didn't say, "You hurt me." You didn't say, "Why are you distant?" You just dropped 5 quiet words that echoed louder than any scream. You used to be different. It's subtle, it's piercing, and it doesn't give them room to play dumb. Now let's talk fear. Some of you might be thinking, what if this makes them uncomfortable? Good, it should. You're not here to make people comfortable at the expense of your own dignity. You're here to protect your peace. And sometimes peace comes through disruption, through reminding people that their silence speaks volumes and that you heard it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. In today's world of emotional detachment and ghosting culture, sanity is choosing to speak the quiet truth. And that's exactly what you're doing here. You're choosing to say, I remember the version of you who tried, who cared, and I see who you're becoming. You don't send this message expecting a reply. You don't send it to guilt them. You send it to center yourself, to remind them and yourself that you're still awake, still present, still willing to see the truth, even when it hurts. And here's what happens more often than not. This message stays with them. They may not respond right away. They may pretend they didn't care. But at night, when the world gets quiet, that line will ring in their mind like a bell. You used to be different. So the next time they start pulling away, ghosting, pretending they don't feel anything, don't chase, don't shrink, don't scream, just type, "You used to be different," and walk away, not in anger, in mastery. If you're ready to step into that level of calm confidence, type this in the comments right now. I see the shift. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're done closing your eyes to the truth just to keep the peace. Stay with me, because what comes next, it's not a message, it's a silence so loud, it crushes their ego under its weight. Let's keep going. The power of sending nothing at all. Sometimes the loudest message you'll ever send is the one you never type. Let's talk about the moment when every cell in your body screams to reach out. You've tried waiting. You've tried patience. You've tried playing it cool. But the silence, it's driving you crazy. It's the kind that feels personal, heavy, and in that moment, your fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to break it, ready to text something, anything, just to end the not knowing. But hold up. Before you send another message into the void, before you hand them one more drop of your energy, ask yourself something. What if your silence said everything that needed to be said? Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. Not responding is a response, a powerful one. One that doesn't beg, doesn't bend, and doesn't break. It's restraint. It's control. It's choosing presence over performance. And when done from a place of self-respect, not pettiness, it becomes the loudest echo they'll ever hear. Think of it like this. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, tossing stones into the ocean. You wait for the splash. 1, 2, 3, but eventually the ocean just swallows them. No ripple, no sound. That's what your messages start to feel like when someone's emotionally disconnected. You keep throwing stones, hoping one will matter. But the truth is, they stopped listening long ago. That's why sending nothing is sometimes the most stoic, most savage, and most clarifying move you can make. It says, I'm done performing for silence. I'm done proving my worth to someone who already decided not to see it. I'm not ignoring you to hurt you. I'm ignoring you to heal me. Epictetus once said, if someone does not want to listen, save your breath. And folks, that's not passive, that's powerful. It's recognizing when you've given enough, when your effort has become noise, when your presence is no longer being met with the same reverence you bring to the table. Here's where the fear creeps in. You'll think, what if they forget me? What if they move on? But my friend, let me hit you with something stronger. If silence makes someone forget you, you were never remembered the way you deserved in the first place. You're not here to remind people you matter. You're here to live like you do. And that silence you're afraid of, it's actually your power being felt because they notice. Oh, they notice. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in public, but they do. They feel the shift when you stop showing up, when your name stops lighting up their phone, when the person who used to care so deeply just doesn't anymore. That's not bitterness, that's balance. Metaphor time. Picture a stage. You've been sent a spotlight for a long time, dancing for someone who stopped clapping. But today, you step off. No announcement, no drama, just quiet. And the moment you're gone, that's when they finally realize how loud your presence really was. Because let's be honest, people rarely appreciate consistency until it's gone. They take your kindness, your effort, your words for granted. And then the silence comes. Not the silence of punishment, but the silence of peace. The silence that says, I no longer owe you access to me. And here's the best part. This silence doesn't need to end in revenge. It doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't even need to be noticed right away. Because you didn't go quiet to get a reaction. You went quiet to reclaim your rhythm. Now you might be asking, how do I know when silence is the right move? It's simple. When you've said enough, when you've shown enough, when reaching out feels more like self-betrayal than connection, that's your cue. That's when you put the phone down, take a breath, and let the silence do the speaking. If this message hit you, if you're done giving your energy to people who only hear you when you stop speaking, then I want you to write this in the comments right now. My silence speaks. Say it like you mean it. Type it like a boundary. Let it be your declaration, not of war, but of wisdom. Stay with me, because the next shift, it's about mastering how to mirror their energy without ever losing your identity. And that, my friends, is where your transformation becomes undeniable. Master the mirror. Match their energy without losing yourself. When they pull back and you stay still, it's not weakness, it's wisdom watching them reveal themselves. Let's end this game once and for all, the game of overextending, overreaching, and overanalyzing. Because that's what so many of you have been doing. They go quiet and you get loud. They pull away and you lean in. They give less and somehow you give more. Until what? Until you're left holding all the emotional weight while they wander around untouched, unbothered, unread. Not anymore. This is where we master the mirror. And no, it's not about playing games. It's not about faking indifference or pretending to care less than you do. It's about learning to match their energy without losing your integrity. It's about moving with precision, not panic. So, what does this actually look like? They take 3 days to reply. You don't answer in 3 seconds. They stop reaching out. You stop filling the gap. Not out of spite, but out of respect. Respect for your time. Respect for your energy. Respect for the version of you that deserves mutuality, not emotional breadcrumbing. The truth is, people notice patterns. And when someone realizes that no matter how little they give, you keep showing up, they stop valuing your presence. They may not say it, but subconsciously they start seeing you as predictable, as safe, as easy. And easy is easy to ignore. But when you mirror, when you quietly stop showing up where you're not appreciated, that's when things shift. That's when they start asking silent questions. Why haven't they reached out? Did I go too far? Are they done? Metaphor time. Think of a dance. You step forward, they step back. You reach out, they retreat. But one day you stop moving, you freeze, and suddenly they're the ones feeling exposed, unbalanced, off rhythm. That's the moment they realize they weren't dancing alone. You were just the only one still trying to keep the beat. Stoicism teaches us not to react emotionally to things outside our control. And people's inconsistency, that's outside your control. But what's within your power? The pause. The decision to no longer invest energy into something that's become one-sided. That's not cold, that's clear. Here's the fear that'll try to hijack you in this process. If I stop trying, I'll lose them. But pause and really think about that. If silence is all it takes to lose someone, You never had them in the first place. You were holding a ghost and calling it a connection, and now you're finally letting it go. Here's where the mirror becomes your greatest tool. Not because it's about revenge, but because it's about reflection. You show them their behavior by gently embodying it back. You create a moment where they feel their own absence in your silence. And trust me, that moment is unforgettable. When they feel that shift, when they see that you're no longer the emotional safety net they took for granted, they either step up or slip away. And either way, you win, because you've reclaimed your space. You've removed yourself from the dynamic of overgiving and entered the realm of self-respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And this is one of those moments. This is where you stop trying to fix someone else's energy and start managing your own. Let's make it even more practical. If they don't initiate the conversation for a week, you don't either. If they send cold, dry responses, you mirror that tone. If they show inconsistency, you meet it with consistency in your boundaries, not your availability. But here's the key. You do it without anger. You don't shame. You don't guilt. You don't post passive-aggressive stories hoping they'll notice. You just shift, quietly, decisively, elegantly. And that silence, that adjustment, it'll be deafening. Because now they're forced to sit with their own energy, without you softening the blow. So the next time you feel the urge to chase, to check in, to compensate for what they're no longer giving, I want you to stop, breathe, and ask yourself, what would happen if I just matched their energy without compromising mine? If that question hit your chest like truth, then I want you to write it in the comments right now. I mirror, not chase. Let that be your shift. Let that be your shield. Because the most powerful version of you isn't loud. It isn't needy. It isn't trying to prove a thing. It's calm. It's composed. And it knows how to match the energy in the room without ever forgetting the light it brings into it. Stay with me. Because now that you've mastered the mirror, you're ready for the final move. The energy that doesn't just hold your worth, it commands it. Don't react to silence. Let it reveal everything. When you stop reacting, you stop bleeding for people who only brought the knife. Let's end this with the most powerful move of all. The move most people never master because it feels like doing nothing. But that's the illusion. Because this isn't doing nothing. This is doing everything. Here's the truth. When someone goes silent, it's not just silence, it's data. And how you respond to that silence says more about you than it does about them. The question is, will you react or will you reveal? Because when you react, you chase, you explain, you shrink, you try to solve a problem that doesn't even belong to you. But when you don't react, when you stay still, stay composed, and stay grounded, something wild happens. You let the silence do the talking. You let their actions reveal their true priorities. You allow the absence to echo so loud it becomes undeniable, even to them. Imagine this. You send a message, maybe even a kind one, and then nothing, no reply. Hours, days, your mind wants to scream, your ego wants to follow up, your fear wants to fix it, but instead you wait, you stay still, you decide not to move, and in that space you witness something powerful. The truth shows up uninvited, because anyone can say, I care. Anyone can say, I've just been busy, but real care shows up in consistency, in presence, in respect. And silence, that's not confusion, that's clarity disguised as fog. The people who are for you won't confuse you, they won't ignore you while expecting you to stay. And if they do, you have one sacred obligation: do not reward their disrespect with your attention. Stoicism teaches us to control our reactions, not to become passive, but to become powerful. The moment you learn to sit with silence instead of scrambling to fill it, you become unshakable. You no longer need closure. You no longer need their explanation. You've learned to watch the evidence instead of begging for words. Think of it like this. Imagine someone throws a stone into a lake. You're the water. You can splash, ripple, react wildly, or you can absorb it quietly. Let the ripples move through you without ever disturbing your stillness. And when the water calms again, the stone is still at the bottom. The truth is still there. You just didn't let it make a mess. Some of you have been stuck in cycles where silence feels like a hook, and you keep biting. You keep responding with one more message, one more effort, one more just checking in. But every time you do, you validate the very behavior you hate. You teach them that silence works, that they don't need to give more because you'll always be there, always waiting, always reacting. Not anymore. From this point forward, you don't react to silence. You study it, you learn from it, you rise through it. Because someone who wants you won't leave you guessing, and someone who respects you won't need reminders. And the second they start treating you like an option, that's your cue to become unavailable. This isn't about playing games. This is about protecting your nervous system, your peace, your energy. This is about knowing your worth so deeply that silence doesn't break you, it builds you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." Well, silence is truth. It's not always the one you wanted, but it's the one you needed. And now that you see it, you can act on it. So let it reveal who they are. Let it reveal who you've become, because you're not that same version of yourself anymore, the one who begged for breadcrumbs, who over-explained, who feared being forgotten. Now you stand still, not out of weakness, but out of power. Let them wonder where you went. Let them sit in the space your presence used to fill. And if they never come back, that's not a loss, that's a gift. That's the universe clearing space for something deeper, something reciprocal, something real. If this message hit you in the chest like it was written for you, then take your power back and drop these words in the comments right now. I won't react. Say it like a vow. Say it like freedom. Because when you stop reacting to silence, you finally hear your own voice again. And that voice, it's not just powerful, it's unforgettable. The people who truly value you don't make you guess. When someone cares, it's clear. When they don't, it's confusing. Stop translating mixed signals and start trusting the silence. Let's be honest. When someone truly values you, you don't need to chase clarity. You feel it. Their effort speaks. Their consistency calms. Their presence reassures. There are no games, no delayed replies wrapped in excuses, no sudden disappearances followed by half-hearted reappearances, just presence, just truth, just respect. But the moment you have to start decoding messages, wondering what your last text did wrong, questioning if you're asking for too much when all you really want is basic effort, that's the moment you've already been shown the truth. And it's this: they're not confused, they're comfortable. Comfortable with your chasing, comfortable with your overthinking, comfortable with you doing all the work. You're not here to be an emotional detective. You're not here to beg someone to treat you like you matter. From this moment forward, you are done guessing. You are done decoding. You are done handing your value to people who don't even know how to hold it. The right ones won't make you question your worth. They'll remind you of it daily, effortlessly, authentically. If this message hit you, if you're finally ready to stop chasing, stop waiting, and start commanding respect, I want you to type it in the comments right now. No more guessing. And if this entire guide lit something inside you, if it gave you the strength to walk away from confusion and step back into your power, then hit that like button, subscribe, and join me for more truths that protect your peace and reclaim your presence. Your silence is strength, your clarity is your crown. Now go wear it.